A little while ago, I was sitting in a coffee shop. I spend quite a lot of time in coffee shops these days. And as I was sitting there doing a bit of work and having my coffee, a young couple with a baby came and sat on the table next to me. The first thing they said was this: 2,000 quid for a chocolate fountain? You must be joking. He replied, yeah, we could double glaze the front of our house for that. And then she said, do you know, I thought it was all about love. I thought that's why we were getting married. It was about the two of us committing ourselves to one another for life. Now, I don't know what you think about that, but that's a really interesting conversation. And just at that moment, the lady got up and she walked away, presumably going to the toilet. Do you know, I couldn't help myself. I turned to him and said, excuse me, I hope you don't mind, but I couldn't help but overhear what you were saying. I'm a Baptist minister, and I'm guessing you're talking about wedding receptions. I could give you 3 really good wedding receptions that wouldn't cost you a lot of money, which would portray your personalities and would help you to actually do something really significant. Well, that piqued his interest, and he said, tell me about it. So I told him about the takeaway reception. I told him about the picnic reception. I told him about the reception in a box. And as I unpacked those really quirky ideas that people had come up with regard to wedding receptions, I felt like we built a sufficiently strong relationship for me to ask him, I hope you don't mind, but why are you getting married? You seem like a pretty together couple. You seem like you've got it all going for you. He went very quiet, almost tearful. And he said, the reason why I want to do it is because she has done one of the greatest things a woman can do for a man. She's been prepared to have a child with me. And all I want to say is that I'm hanging around for life. I went, whoa, that's probably the best thing I've heard today. What commitment, what a willingness to be both a good dad and both a good partner. At that point, the wife-to-be came back. She looked at me a bit funny, and I just got on with what I was doing and left them to their conversation. After a little while, they'd had their coffee and they were about to leave. And just as they were going towards the door, he stopped and he came back to me. And he said, thanks ever such a lot for what you had to say. I found it really useful. Would you mind telling me which church that you are the pastor of? Oh, I told him the church that I was the pastor of, and he said, do you know, if we lived closer to you, I'd think about coming to church. Now, that was an amazing thing for him to say, because he told me that he wasn't religious, that they weren't thinking of getting married in a church, and that he'd never been to church in his life. The reason why I tell you that story is because it strikes me as having some really valuable lessons that we can learn in terms of our engagement with others. It started with their life experience. It didn't actually foist upon them something that they weren't interested in, but it started with where they were right then. It commended them for what they were seeking to do. I know they got things the wrong way round. I know that the ideal in terms of the Bible is that a husband be united to one wife, they become one flesh, and then children ensue. But to my mind, it didn't seem to really matter. Here was a couple that was seeking to do something that was quite significant. It was about love, it was about commitment, it was about responsibility. And I wanted to encourage that. So having had the conversation, it was the last thing that I expected for him to turn around and say to me, I'd come to your church. It just goes to show that it doesn't take very much to have a massive impact.